What's good, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Boombox Guru, music commentary and music discussion for music lovers. I'm your host, LB, and we got a very good episode for you guys today. So if you don't want to miss out, tune in and keep it locked in. What's good, everybody? I want to welcome you all to another episode of the Boombox Guru. I'm your host, LB, and today we're going to talk about the debut album from Digital Underground known as Sex Packets. Released in 1990, this album has gone down in history as one of the greatest hip-hop albums of all time. It was one of the earliest examples of what would later be known as alternative hip-hop, and it's become a pop cultural iconic album. It's transcended hip-hop culture. You know, it created a hip-hop dance that kids who weren't even alive in the 1990s know about. It created a character within the group where people who weren't even around during that period or who weren't even old enough to know what was going on know about. So this record, it just became a timeless classic. It presented a different sound for hip-hop, and it was something that was a breath of fresh air and helped Digital Underground to stand out amongst the countless hip-hop groups or collectives that were active during the time. So you definitely don't want to miss out on this episode. It's going to be a great episode. So if you want to listen to my review on Sex Packets as I break down these songs, definitely stay tuned in and keep it locked in. We're talking about Digital Underground's Sex Packets. Peace. So the first song to start off Sex Packets is the biggest song of the album as well as the biggest song of Digital Underground's career, and that's the Humpty Dance. Everybody knows about the Humpty Dance. You don't have to be a hip-hop head or even a fan of hip-hop to know about this song. It's been everywhere. It's been in all kinds of movies, TV shows, commercials. I would say that the Humpty Dance is one of the most popular hip-hop songs of all time, right up there next to OPP by Naughty by Nature. That's how big this song still continues to be. And the interesting thing about this song is that it was actually the last song recorded for the record. It was a last minute addition, and they actually had to remove a song from the album in order to place the Humpty Dance on there. When they first recorded the song, they started performing it live over in Europe. And I think their manager, Adrian Gregory, he started playing it in clubs around Oakland. And if I didn't mention, Digital Underground is from Oakland, California. But he started playing it around clubs. They were performing it live, on tour. And they were getting a positive response from the song. And they realized that they had a hit. So they had to add it to the album. And it's a good thing that they did, because it really thrust them into the limelight. Now, this is a song that is sung from the perspective of the Humpty Hump character. Now, it's not the first song to introduce Humpty Hump, but it's definitely the song that made him the mascot of the band, that made him the face of Digital Underground. Because the song is essentially about him and his sexual conquest and him bragging about, hey, I'm getting money, I'm having the time of my life. That's what it is on the surface. But if you really read the lyrics, the song is really about self-acceptance and making the best out of every situation. Because Humpty is actually kind of making fun of himself. He's talking about, hey, I look funny, I got a big nose, I got these weird glasses, I dress funny, I don't look like other rappers. But he's also talking about how he still gets women, he's still getting money, and he's having fun. Making the best out of every situation, right? Making the best out of every circumstance, and being self-accepting of who you are, being confident in yourself, and not letting certain things like bring your self-esteem down. This is what Humpty Hump is doing. He's being confident in himself despite the way he looks, and him being confident in himself is making other people respect him. It's making ladies want to love him, and is not stopping him from reaching his goals and making money and doing what he wants to do. He's having the time of his life. There's one of the most popular lines on the songs where he talks about getting busy in a Burger King bathroom, and then In the documentary I watched about Digital Underground called Raw and Uncut, Humpty Hump, the character Humpty Hump, he tells a story about how him and his girl was horny and they wanted to get it in, and the next best place they could do it was in a Burger King bathroom. You know, a Burger King bathroom ain't the best place, but hey, in spite of the circumstances, they made the best out of the situation. So I thought it was really interesting to find out that that song actually has a really good positive message for the listener, basically turning a negative into a positive. Now, the Humpty Dance, the dance itself was actually inspired by the San Francisco earthquake of 1989, and group member and second frontman Money B, he tells in an interview that after that earthquake, the San Francisco Bay Area looked like a post-apocalyptic war zone. He said it looked pretty bad. But when they actually recorded the song, Digital Underground actually didn't even have the dance made up. Someone within their circle suggested that they should take inspiration from the earthquake. And if you pay attention to the Humpty Dance, it kind of looks like somebody that's trying to catch their balance. Well, while everything else around them might be going haywire, but that's the way it looks. It looks like somebody that's kind of maybe a little drunk, or maybe somebody that's off balance. And I think it's also worth mentioning that, you know, Tupac Shakur, who was a member of Digital Underground, him and Money B were known as the Humpty Dancers. So if you look at live performances, you'll see Tupac and Money B doing the Humpty Dance. And sonically, you know, the song is funky, very upbeat. It's a dance song. It's something that was made for the clubs. It's one of the most sampled songs in music history, or hip-hop history. As a matter of fact, Digital Underground, there's a skit on their third album, The Body Hat Syndrome, where it's called the Humpty Awards, and they play snippets of about 30 or 40 songs that have sampled and utilized the Humpty Dance in some variation. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I think one of the highlights of the song sonically is the bass line. The bass line is real groovy, and it has this grip effect that is really cool. And I've seen in live performances where the group Digital Underground actually utilized that bass line in their live performances. Like, they get the audience involved because it's a really cool grip effect. And if you've never paid attention to it, definitely go check it out immediately, because I thought that grip effect is something that really adds so much flavor to the track or to the song. So then we go to the next song called The Way We Swing. Now, The Way We Swing, this song is performed by Shock G solo. And what I like about this song is that I feel like it's the most hip-hop-ish song on the record. It's still funky. It still has those funk elements. And they also sample a Jimi Hendrix song called Who Knows. But the song, it addresses like Digital Underground naysayers, or it answers like the skepticism or questions that people have, because Digital Underground was a different type of hip-hop group when they burst on the scene. You know, they came out during the time when Public Enemy, you know, Tribe Called Quest, X-Clan, Boogie Down Productions, NWA, they came out during a time where mainly hardcore hip-hop was really making waves, and they were different from that. You know, they set themselves apart by being different. And The Way We Swing addresses that. It's telling people like, okay, this is the way that we sing. As a matter of fact, in the first verse, Shock G starts it off by saying, now this is not your average everyday rap song. We won't be rocking bells that go a ding and a dong. I thought that was really cool. I don't know if that was kind of like a stab at LL Cool J, because we all know that LL, one of his most famous classic hip-hop songs is Rock the Bells, which do have bells in the song. But I'm not gonna say that's what it was. I'm just saying, or what I think it's saying is that Digital Underground, they're not making what you're used to. They're not what you're used to. They're doing something that's going to be different, and they're showing you like, hey, this is the way that we get down. This is the way that we swing. So it's more so them just showing you like, hey, we're not going to do what all these other rap crews have been doing. We're going to come into hip-hop. We're still hip-hop, but we're going to add our own flavor to it, and we're going to show you the way we get down. And it's kind of, well, it's not kind of, but it also kind of harkens to what group member DJ Fuse said in an interview, where he said that, when they came into the hip hop game, there was all these rules, and they pretty much just said, you know what, F that, we're not gonna follow the rules. We're just gonna do what we do and be who we are. And I think that's what the way we swing represents. They're just telling you, like, we're not gonna do what the other hip hop groups do. We're hip hop, but we're gonna put our own spin and our own twist on hip hop, and we're gonna do something different. So then we go to the next song called Rhyming on the Funk. This is probably one of my all-time favorite Digital Underground songs. Second frontman, Money B, him and Shock G both perform on this track. Shock G and Money B are a great duo. There's a really good chemistry between the two of them. They do have different styles. You can tell that they're different. You can tell one from the other one. But they just work so well together. They just have a really great chemistry that I think would make them one of the best rapping duos in hip hop. Even though Digital Underground is a full group, I'm just saying that the dynamic between Shock G and Money B is really cool. They have really great chemistry when they perform together. Rhyming on the Funk, honestly, to me, I feel that this is just an ode to their biggest influence, which is funk music, because funk is all over this record. The P-Funk samples or the P-Funk influenced sounds is all over here. You can tell that they were listening to a lot of George Clinton when they were growing up as kids. But it's got a really cool bass line. It's real groovy, really kind of dirty too. And they sample Flashlight by Parliament, so it gives it like a raw, kind of gritty funk feel. And the beat is really cool. It's a very danceable track. I can imagine, like, in 1990 that a lot of people probably were listening to this song and probably playing it at parties and such, because it does have that vibe to it. It does have that feel good vibe. I definitely like listening to it in my car. If you got a nice stereo, turn the volume up, bass is definitely going to kick. But that's pretty much all there is to this song. I mean, the dynamic between Money B and Shock G is cool. The way they play off of each other and how they just mesh well together when they're collaborating with each other. And it's just a really funky song. And I think it also is a foreshadowing of the direction that the group was going to take on their next album, Sons of the P. Because I feel like Rhyming on the Funk could have easily fit on that record as well. Because it's mainly, if you didn't have the hip-hop influences on there, you could really say that Rhyming on the Funk is like a pure funk song. It has that pure funk element to it. So then we get to the next song on the record, and that is Underwater Rhymes Remix. Now, this is the remix of the original version. The original Underwater Rhymes was actually the first single that Digital Underground released, I believe, in 1988. They released it with another song called Your Life's a Cartoon. And I don't think the remix is that much different from the original version. I think there's a slight difference. But this is another really cool song on the album. And the concept in the song, which is performed by Shock G, it's a concept telling of like an underwater party involving sea creatures. Like, there's mermaids, there's blowfish, there's sharks, I think octopus. There's all kinds of like sea creatures involved in this story, and they're throwing a party underwater. Hence the title, Underwater Rhymes, And there's a really cool part where the character MC Blowfish comes in, and Shock G changes his voice to sound like what would probably be the way a rapping blowfish would sound. I thought that was really cool. And lyrically what he says is pretty cool too, where he talks about, he said something about leaving you in the bay. Hold on, let me check it out right quick. It says, I want to, yo, this is MC Blowfish, and we're gonna do a little something like this. Well, I'm a deep sea gangster, underwater prankster, kissing on the girlfish, dishing all the because I blew your mind and started to rhyme. Doesn't mean that I'm cool, cause you'll be back next time with a hook in the line, so you can hear that frying sound. I'm telling you I'm down. I'll spin your boat around, leave suckers lost in the bay. You want to play? I'll hook your line to a stingray. That's my favorite part of the song, where he says, you want to play? I'll hook your line to a stingray. But yeah, he switches up his voice to sound like what would be a rapping blowfish. And I really like the effects that they added on the song. Like you can hear like gulping water, so it really sounds like it's underwater. And then the bass line that is used in this song, I didn't notice this before, but as I was listening to this album for the review, the bass in the song actually sounds kind of muffled as if it's underwater as well. So they did a really good job of giving you that effect sonically of like underwater party. So then we go on to the next song, which is called Gutfest 89. And again, Money B is back in. Another great song. Really, like, I think probably my favorite songs on the album are the ones that were performed by Shock G and Money B, because they're just a great duo when they collaborate. Gutfest 89 is another one of my favorite songs on here. Funky, but more up-tempo and jazzy. It has saxophone in this song. And it tells a story, or the concept is behind a festival taking place called Gutfest, where you have all these beautiful women of different shapes and sizes, different ethnicities, whatever type of woman you're into, you go to this festival and they're there for your choosing. And I just thought that was really cool. And I like how sonically the more upbeat, jazzy feel kind of gives you that feeling of excitement. Now, if you're a single guy out there, single guys out there, I'm only talking to you because I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but just imagine, you know, you arrive at this festival called Gutfest and you have all these different beautiful women, and there's so many different types of whatever you like in a woman. Whatever type of woman you like, they're there for your choosing. Just imagine the excitement that'll go through you. And that's what sonically the funky jazzy feel gives. It gives that excitement. And then of course Shock G and Money B come in and they have like these smooth vocals, and they're just telling the story about all these different types of women. You got big women, you got thick women, skinny ones, whatever it is you like. You have all these women here that you can choose from. And I also like the intro of the song where there's like these reporters and they're reporting from the festival. They're like reporting on the festivities of what's going on, and they're talking about like the live performances. They name drop a few famous bands like the Clash and the Who, Chick Corea, and of course Digital Underground. And then they even talk about like mud. I think like there's something mentioned about mud fights between two women. It's a really cool song, man. They even name drop one of the members of De La Soul called Postinus. I really dig this song, man. Because what I really like about it is how, I think in a nutshell, they're talking about how all women are beautiful. How all women are beautiful, no matter what your color, you know, your shape, your size. I really like how they're not leaving out any women. You know, they're talking about big women, thick women, whatever. I think in a nutshell, they're talking about, hey, there's something for everybody here. There's something for everybody here. Whatever you like is here for you. So I really dig that whole concept as well. But yeah, Gutfest 89 is really dope. It's really dope. And it's probably I think it's one of the best songs on the album. So after Gutfest, we get more serious and we enter the Danger Zone. Now the Danger Zone is the most serious song on this album because it's more of a social commentary. It's actually about, you know, crack, cocaine. You know, at the time when this album came out, you know, the crack epidemic was in full swing. You know, a lot of people were selling crack and a lot of people were smoking it. And in the book called Check the book called Check the Technique by Brian Coleman, Shock G said, that rhyme style on there is my true undiluted style. We had to represent the serious side of us, even though the humor and sci-fi side of us was more prominent on the album. We wanted to keep a door open where we could be serious commentators if it ever leaned that way again. So I thought that was really cool. Like I said, this song is performed by Shock G and Digital Underground member Kenny K, R.I.P. to him. He's no longer with us. But that's what it is. It's a social commentary about, you know, the crack epidemic. And it's another sample using Flashlight by Parliament. But I think the particular sample that they use in this song really helps to invoke that feeling of danger as well as anxiety. If you listen to the song, you'll hear that particular Flashlight sample that they use in here. It really invokes that type of feeling. And they tell a story. Both of them talk about a woman named Dope Fiend Carla. In one of Shock G's verses, he's driving his car in downtown, and she approaches him trying to beg him for money. He refuses, and he kind of tells her, like, that she's living in the danger zone. That she's really not of this world anymore. That she's gone off of crack and such. And then Kenny K, I like one of his lines where he says, even the suckers who are running, no, he says, everybody's basing, even the suckers who are running this nation. Yes, I'm pulling no punches. The government gets drugs in bunches. I thought that was a really cool and bold line for him to say. I guess you could say he's kind of like alluding to like known like theories and stuff that has been floating around for years about, how crack even got into communities and such. But I thought that was a real dope line from Kenny K. But yeah, the Danger Zone, it's just social commentary. I would say it's Digital Underground doing it in their way, doing social commentary their way. But it's a cool song. I don't know if I would say it's one of my favorite songs on the record, because I kind of feel like it doesn't really fit into the concept of Sex Packets per se, but I think that it does. I think for the purpose that it serves, it's a great song. It's just talking about drug addiction and such. So I think it serves its purpose for that. But it's not a terrible song. I think it's pretty cool. And it's one of the most funkiest songs on the record too. I think that this song could also fit in on their next album, Sons of the P, because it has more of like a kind of a hard, rawer funk compared to the other tracks on this album. So after we leave the Danger Zone, things get a little bit more sexier as we go to the next song, which is called Freaks of the Industry. Now this is another song which is performed by Shock G and Money B. And like I said earlier, I really like the whole chemistry that Shock G and Money B always bring to the table when they're collaborating on a song together. And this is one of the best collaborations on this record that I've heard from the two of them. So Freaks of the Industry, as the title suggests, this is a freaky song. It's more along the lines of dirty rap, but it's not like your typical dirty rap song. It's not like something you will hear on a Too Short record or a 2 Live Crew record, where, for lack of a better word, where it's more degrading towards the females. On this song in particular, Shock G and Money B, while it is very sexually explicit, in nature, Shock G and Money B are actually discussing and talking about how they want to satisfy the woman. So it's not one of those instances where they're just out to get theirs and they're just gonna dump the girl on the side of the road or whatever. It's not one of those instances. In this song, they're actually describing how they want to sexually satisfy the woman. They're talking about how, they want to, go down and perform on the woman. There's these elements of foreplay that Money B provides, where he talks about all the certain things that he does to make the woman feel good, to warm her up, to get her in that mood. And then of course Shock G, he goes through this kind of like different scenarios, this kind of like questionnaire of like, what choices do you make? Like, you got the girl in your room, you got her in where you want her. Okay, so how are you going to approach the situation? How are you going to approach the situation and really satisfy her? He breaks it down into these different scenarios that are kind of like a questionnaire, which I thought was really cool. But this song, it's a very smooth and groovy song. It has these keyboards in the background that really give it this kind of spaced out, kind of sci-fi vibe. And I just really dig how Shock B and Money B took this song and, they wanted to set themselves apart from what other rap crews or what other rappers were doing at the time. Because during this period, man, you really didn't hear a lot of rap groups or a lot of rappers really making songs where they talked about how they want to please the woman. I mean, if you did hear those type of songs, they were usually kind of cookie cutter, radio friendly. But the fact that they took a risk and did something that was actually not popular at the time, it's just another example of how Digital Underground walked to the beat of their own drum. Because there's actually an interview that Shock G said, where he said, we were like, hey, we like to eat PUSSY, and we admit it. That was a big deal at the time. We even had a meeting in the studio about whether we should say it or not. We knew women would love that line, of course. And then Money B, he also goes on to say how groundbreaking the lyrical perspective of this song was, where he said, people had always made sex records, like we want some PUSSY or whatever, but we were some of the first to say that we wanted to please the woman. And this is another quote or quotes that comes from the book Check the Technique by Brian Coleman. So I just really thought that was really cool, how they just wanted to set themselves apart from what other rappers were doing. And another thing that I really like about this song is that since it's a song where Shock G and Money B are actually talking about how they want to satisfy a woman, this is a song that you could actually listen to with your girl. Like I said, it is a dirty rap song, but if you play this around your lady, I don't really think that she would be offended or put off by it. She's not going to get grossed out or tell you to turn it off. If anything, if you play this song while you're with your girlfriend, your wife, or whatever female you might be involved with, if you play this song around her, I guarantee that she's more than likely going to get in the mood. It's more than likely going to turn her on, because that song just has that whole vibe. Everything from the sound to the very sensual sound that the song provides, to the smooth delivery that Shock G and Money B provide, to how they describe in great detail of how they want to sexually satisfy women. It's definitely a song that your girl, wife, whatever woman you're dealing with would enjoy. And it's definitely one of the highlights of this album. It's one of my favorite songs to listen to quite a bit from time to time. So we go from we go from Freaks of the Industry, and we get to another hit single from the album, which is Do What You Like. Now, Do What You Like was actually the first single released from the album. And if I'm correct, I want to say that Do What You Like was actually released maybe before Sex Package actually came out. I want to say that this was another independent single that Digital Underground released in 1989. It was like an underground hit. And this song was actually really big in Europe. I believe Digital Underground actually, they went and toured Europe for like 2 or 3 months just off of Do What You Like. The song had a huge impact and a huge following over in Europe. I mean, they went everywhere, like Sweden, Great Britain, London. They just really went all over Europe, which I thought was amazing. That, at the time, Digital Underground wasn't really that well known in the United States. They were more or less an underground act. But the fact that this song took off in Europe was just amazing to me, and that they were able to tour off of that in another country, matter of fact, in another continent, before they even had actually signed a record deal, I thought was amazing. But this song is really cool. It's got an up-tempo, like New Jack Swing type beat, and it's, the title was self-explanatory. It's described as like this high-spirited ode to doing what you like. And, it features like some classic instructions about what to do with your toenails and things of that nature. It's a really funny and humorous song, but at the same time, it's just a song about just having fun and doing what you like. And this was actually the first song that introduced the Humpty Hump character. Even though, the Humpty dance is what really catapulted Digital Underground, as well as Humpty Hump, into mainstream superstardom. Do What You Like was the first introduction of him, because this was actually, you could technically say that Do What You Like was actually the first single from Sex Packets. You know, it was an underground hit. You know, they shot a really cool video for it at some hotel somewhere in the Bay Area in Oakland. If you watch the video, it looks like a really fun video. It's just a huge like party, and most of the song is performed by Shock G as well as the Humpty Hump character. There's really not much Money B involved in this song, because Money B has said in plenty of interviews that he actually didn't like this song. He didn't really like the beat, so he only did what Shock G asked him to do. So he didn't really contribute a whole lot to the song. He just gave maybe a few minor parts, but it's a really cool song. You know, I remember the first time I saw the video for it on MTV2. I really thought it was really cool. And also, Tupac is actually in the video somewhere. I haven't been able to point him out just yet, but Tupac wasn't exactly an official member of Digital Underground yet, but he was around. He was within the circle, but he's actually in that video. And of course, this version, the album version, is a lot longer than the single version. And there's actually this funny, kind of interesting part of the song where this automated voice comes in, and it says, it's a brief announcement telling all radio DJs that they should fade out the record at the 3 to 4 minute mark, because that's really the standard, you know, on public radio stations. So after this part, you kind of hear the song kind of fade out. Then it comes back in, it starts to fade back in, and the automated voice is talking about, now, if this record is being played at a club, disco, lounge, house basement, or block party, car stereo, stoop, or any other social gathering, we will now allow the beat to continue and proceed to give you more of what you like. Because I believe Do What You Like is actually like 7 minutes long. The album version is like 7 minutes long. Because this whole part was actually kind of a stab at radio DJs. You know, like radio stations, like forcing you to kind of like, you know, you have a certain time limit, you know, on radio stations, and you can't really play a full album version, because it's described as saying is this whole section is a jab at the tendency of radio DJs to interrupt or fade out songs after 3 to 4 minutes, no matter how good the remaining time of the song is. So basically it's kind of just showing you like how sometimes that kind of ruins the song. You ever notice how you have like a single version and you have a single edited version, and then you get the album version and you hear all these amazing extra parts of the song that you don't hear on the radio version. So it's pretty much a stab at how radio stations kind of ruin really great songs. And I also want to say that it could possibly be a reference to an incident that happened to Shock G early in his career. He was actually a disc jockey at a radio station down in Florida, and he got fired from that radio station because he played the full album version of Funkadelic's Knee Deep. If I'm not mistaken, the full version of Funkadelic's Knee Deep is somewhere around 15 minutes long, and he played the whole 15-minute song on the air. And you know, of course, that probably, you know, the radio station probably ended up getting fined because of that. But I just thought that was an interesting part of the song to really point out. But, you know, Do What You Like, you know, it's a really cool song. I would say it's very much of its time because of the beat. You know, the beat has that very New Jack Swing, up-tempo type beat. And there's a lot of people that have pointed out that it does have a very European type vibe to it, which is probably why the song was such a big hit over in Europe. But in any case, it's definitely a great song, and it's, well, maybe not one of Digital Underground's best known songs, but if you're a Digital Underground fan, it's one of their best known songs. So then we go from Do What You Like, and, you know, with Freaks of the Industry, things kind of slowed down and got sexy. And then with Do What You Like, things kind of picked back up. It kind of picked back up, got a little bit more up tempo, a little bit more fun. Now we're really taking things slow. So we're going to the title track, which is called Sex Packets. Now this song is the biggest highlight of the record. What sets it apart from the other tracks is that this is the slowest song. This is truly a slow song on the album, and it has a vibe of like late 80s, like early 90s R&B. And Shock G actually described this song as being this sci-fi spaced out digital jazz ensemble, and it's one of the favorite. It's a fan favorite when they perform the song live. You know, he always says that the song kind of puts the audience in this like ritual type state. But it's a really great song, and you can pretty much say that it's not a hip hop song. It's really an R&B song. Shock G and Digital Underground member Smoothie Smooth actually perform on this song, and they don't rap. Neither one of them rap. They both sing the verses. So Sex Packets, it pretty much describes what the Sex Packets are. And I'm gonna go to Wikipedia right quick, because you know, the whole Sex Packets concept has a very interesting background, which was actually created by DU member Smoothie Smooth. So here's the album background. It says the album is a concept album about GSRA, genetic suppression relief antidotes, a pharmaceutical substance that is produced in the form of a large glowing pill about the size of a quarter, which comes in a condom-sized package and is allegedly developed by the government to provide its intended users, such as astronauts, with a satisfying sexual experience in situations where the normal attainment of such experience would be counterproductive to the mission at hand. That is just really extraordinary. It's just really interesting and creative how they came up with this concept. And what I like so much about this concept of Sex Packets is that you can tell that Digital Underground took a page out of the Parliament Funkadelic book. Because if you're familiar with Parliament Funkadelic, if you've ever heard any of their albums, they've always had these interesting and creative concepts that went along with the music. So it wasn't just them just making music just to be making music. They had really deep concepts that went along with it that had a very sci-fi influence, which is what Sex Packets is. This song and this album has a very sci-fi vibe around it, which you can tell that they took that inspiration from Parliament Funkadelic. So I thought this concept was really cool. Now, in a nutshell, what the Sex Packets are and what this song is really doing is describing and telling you what the Sex Packets are. Basically, Sex Packets are these pills that you take, and they give you this hallucinogenic sexual wet dream. I know that sounds crazy, but like I said, I really like this concept. You know, it's just sex in the pill. That's what Shock G says. It's just sex in the pill. And you have all these different types of sex packets. You have their sex packets for girls, where they can have any guy that they want, and then there's sex packets for guys, where they can choose any girl that they want. There's sex packets for everybody, no matter how you get down. There's sex packets for everybody. They have orgies. You know, you can choose any different type of women, like Asian women, blonde, black, whatever race, whatever ethnicity you're into, you can choose it. And the fact that they have like orgy packets is really, I thought was really cool too. But they just, you know, Shock G and Smoothie Smooth just break down the whole situation and what happens to you when you take a sex packet. And I always like this one part where Shock G is singing to his girl, and he's like, you know, you're so fine, and his girl is like, no, I'm not tonight. You know, she's not in the mood to do anything tonight. So he's like, okay, that's fine, then I'll just take a packet. And he says this one line where it goes, no more will I ever have to jack it, because instead I can just take a packet. I thought that was really funny, because, you know, if going along with the concept of sex packets, he's right, because you wouldn't have to do that. You wouldn't have to jack it if you take a sex packet, because it's giving you this hallucinogenic wet dream that's almost like realistic, like you're actually doing these things. So it's really cool. And then of course you could say that, okay, your girl's not in the mood, so I can just take a packet. You know, you ain't got to go out there in the streets and cheat either. But it's just an amazing song. I think it's one of the longest songs on the album. But it's just great. And I also like the last verse where Shock G says biochemically compacted sexual affection. Yeah, I'm equipped to mix you a packet. Prescription pills, your favorite toss up in a pill. A professional job, baby, yeah. No sex can be safer. It's a pill wrapped in a little piece of paper. I thought that was neat. And if you go and look at the cover of the Sex Packets album, you will see that Shock G is actually holding the sex packet. It's a little glowing package. It looks like a condom, because that's what I used to think it was back in the day when I first saw that album cover. It looked like a condom, like he was holding a condom in his hand. And I really thought that Sex Packets was just a clever way of describing a condom, which in a lot of ways you could still use it for that. You could still use it as that way, but I just think this was a really cool concept that they came up with. It's very interesting. And this is one of the highlights, the biggest highlight of the album. A very slow, digital, sci-fi, romantic song. And I want to add this too before I move on to the next song. If Freaks of the Industry is the song that gets your girl in the mood, then Sex Packets is definitely the song that's going to seal the deal. And I wouldn't kid you on that. I wouldn't steer you wrong on that. Alright, so now we're moving from Sex Packets and we're going to the Packet Man. The Packet Man. Now, the Packet Man, this is another character that is created by Shock G. The Packet Man is the guy who sells the sex packets on the streets. You could say he's kind of maybe like a drug dealer, or maybe like those street vendors that be selling stolen goods on the streets. But no, the Packet Man is selling sex packets. Now, this is an interaction between the Packet Man and Humpty Hump. Of course, both of these characters are performed by Shock G. So the Packet Man introduces himself to Humpty Hump, ask him if he's interested in a packet today, and Humpty Hump's like, he's kind of like, nah man, don't be pulling on my jacket, what are you talking about? So they kind of have this interaction where they're talking about the packets. The guy's describing him, telling him what he has, telling him about this new invention called a packet, basically telling him what it does. Hey, you take this, and whatever girl of your choosing that you choose, she actually becomes your lover. It's like and Humpty Hump even says, well, yeah, I don't take hallucinogenics. But the Packet Man responds saying, wrong again, man. This is way more real. But since you know everything, I'll make someone else a deal. But essentially, that's what it is. It's an hallucinogenic wet dream. But of course, I think it's more intense to where you think it's actually real. But he goes in and he starts like negotiating with him. He's telling him about the different types of women. He says he shows him a packet that says Chinese girl, age 17, waist 24, hips 33. This one's here says one black virgin. Man, this is crazy. I'm gonna have to splurge and give me a few of these things. How long do they last? And he said the Packet Man responds saying that the cheap ones last about 10 minutes, but they have some that are like with extra power that will last about a half an hour, and they sell for about $40. It's crazy, man. The whole song is just really cool, how he's just going through these whole negotiations about trying to buy a packet. And he even tells him about, because you get 2 girls, yeah, it says orgy, right? And if you're married, it's no big deal. You're not cheating at all. You're just popping a pill. And if your wife's got a headache and wants to hit the sack, it's cool. Take a packet, fool. Biochemically combated sexual affection. Now here, take a look at my selection. And I like that part where he talks about, right, if you're married, it's no big deal. You're not cheating at all. You're just popping a pill. So you don't have to commit infidelity with these packets, technically. And if your wife's not in the mood to do it, you can just pop you a packet. I thought that was pretty cool. But really cool song. And this is actually the final song on the album, because the next song after this is a reprise of Sex Packets, sort of like an instrumental version of it that kind of rides out the album. But I thought Packet Man was a really cool song. It's kind of an up-tempo, funky, jazz-influenced vibe. It really goes along with the whole concept of Humpty Hump talking to this Packet Man, trying to, buy a sex packet. It really goes home. It really gives that whole vibe sonically, of them negotiating. Kind of like a black exploitation type vibe in some ways, but it's a really cool song, and I thought it was a really great way to end the album, introducing the Packet Man and pretty much summing up the Sex Packet concept. You know, you can say that Packet Man is more of like an extension of Sex Packets. You know, Sex Packets was more, it gave you more of a detail of how the thing worked, and this is like showing you like, hey, how it's offered to you. And you could also look at this as in more of a positive way. You know, the song called Danger Zone was a social commentary about, you know, how crack cocaine was affecting the community. And then you have this song called Packet Man, where this guy, I guess you could kind of say he's seen as a drug dealer per se, but at the same time he's providing something positive to the community. You know, he's providing people with like whatever sexual fantasies they may want, which I thought was pretty cool. But yeah, you know, Packet Man pretty much ends the album. You know, this is the last official song on here. But like I said, the next song that ends the album is the Packet Reprise, which I believe is mainly just the instrumental. And I think it features a few like crooning from maybe Shot G and Smoothie Smooth, but Packet Man pretty much is what ends this album. Sex Packets was an awesome debut album from Digital Underground. And you know, as soon as that record came out, more specifically, as soon as the Humpty Dance came out, it catapulted Digital Underground into superstardom. You know, Humpty Hump has become not only a hip-hop icon, but he's become a pop cultural icon. Because so many generations of hip-hop fans or music fans in general know who Humpty Hump is. They know about the Humpty Dance. Now, I will say that I do feel that the Humpty Dance, with it being such a hugely successful song, it does tend to overshadow the rest of the album. And in particular, I feel that Sex Packets tends to overshadow the other records that Digital Underground put out throughout their career. Because I'm of the mind that Digital Underground never put out, that they never put out a bad album. But in particular, sticking with the subject of Sex Packets, I feel that sometimes the Humpty Dance tends to kind of just overshadow everything else that album provided, which is one of the main reasons why I wanted to do this review, because I wanted to show people that there was more to Digital Underground than just the Humpty Dance, and that there was more to Sex Packets than just the Humpty Dance. You know, with this record, you got a really interesting concept. Like, who thinks about this hallucinogenic pill that you can take that gives you this almost realistic and intense sex dream? Like, who thinks about that type of concepts? Like, you have to be a very creative, and just, you got to be on some type of different mindset to really think of that concept. And the way that Digital Underground was able to use comedy and a lighthearted approach to put out positive messages was also really cool. You know, for instance, the Humpty Dance, you know, on the surface, we think that song is just about dancing. We think it's just a silly hip-hop dance, so to speak. But really, that song is talking about self-acceptance and making the best out of every situation. You know, turning a negative into a positive and being proud of who you are. Same thing with Do What You Like. Do What You Like has a similar sentiment. It's about not being afraid of who you are and being free to do what you want to do and have fun. And then you have the song Sex Packets or Freaks of the Industry. All these more sexually explicit songs like Gutfest 89 and so forth. You know, while they do kind of fall along the lines of dirty rap, so to speak, what's different about them is that, for one thing, they promote safe sex. And I don't know if any of you have caught on to that if you've listened to the album. But there's this whole underlying thing that is promoting safe sex, because the whole purpose behind the sex packets within the concept of the album is that, hey, you take this, you don't have to go out in the streets and commit infidelity or mess around with a whole bunch of sexual partners and risk catching the STD. You can just take a sex packet where you'll just have this almost realistic wet dream of whatever sexual partner of your choice, and it's just as good, so you don't have to do those things. But there's this whole underlying theme of where they're promoting safe sex as well, which I think is really cool, especially during those times, because safe sex is still an important issue even today. Although some people tend to kind of think it's not anymore, but safe sex is always and will continue to be an important issue and something to talk about. But back then in 1990, it was really important because, like I said, HIV and AIDS was running rampant at that time, and it was very important to put that message out there of practicing safe sex and such. So I really think that's really cool how they was able to take this whole creative and unique concept and to push these messages out there. And the whole sci-fi vibe that the album presents, how they utilize the P-Funk influences, those samples. I mean, man, this is, I don't know how to describe this, man. It's one of those records that I feel really helped lay the groundwork of what West Coast hip hop would later become. Now, I'm not trying to say that Digital Underground invented G-Funk, because that goes to Above the Law, and of course Dr. Dre, DJ Quick. That goes to all those particular artists from Los Angeles. But as far as West Coast hip hop in general, I just think that Digital Underground was one of those groups that really took those funk influences and really utilized it well, infusing it with their hip hop sound, which in turn is something that I feel that the rest of the West Coast hip hop scene will utilize in other ways later on during that period in the 90s. And I think that Sex Packers was one of those earliest albums that really helped to pioneer that style. Not G-Funk in particular, but just the whole fusion of what the West Coast were doing, how they were able to utilize those funk influences as well as samples. Because this album came out in 1990, and I don't really think there were too many other West Coast artists that was really utilizing those George Clinton P-Funk samples like Digital Underground was doing. If there were, I'm open to correction, but I just don't feel like at that time in 1990 there was too many other hip hop groups in the West Coast that were really doing it like that. Because NWA wasn't quite on that. While they did have the funk influences, I don't know, NWA's style and sonically was kind of more influenced by what the Bomb Squad were doing for Public Enemy on the East Coast in a lot of ways. And of course you had groups like Compton's Most Wanted, who their influences, they were using like blues and soul samples. And then of course, DJ Quick would come out a few years later. Too Short from the Bay, who was also from Oakland, California. I mean, he was doing that with his sound. I guess you could say Too Short might have been the only other person that really was utilizing that stuff, but he really didn't start to implement that style until a couple of years later when he formed the Dangerous Crew band, and he came out with the album Shorty the Pimp. But I just feel like Digital Underground with Sex Packets really laid that groundwork for how to utilize those funk samples. And plus the whole concept behind Sex Packets, everything from the title to the sound sonically, the way the group presented their image, everything from the Humpty Hump character, all of that, the more kind of whimsical comedy approach that the group presented to their audience. To me, that's just a page out of P-Funk, out of what George Clinton was doing with Parliament Funkadelic. And it's really cool that they was able to do that, because if you listen to P-Funk, they did the same things. They took these very creative concepts and they were able to put out really positive messages. And at the same time, they were also trying to teach the audience things without overbearing them. The same thing Digital Underground did with Sex Packets. And I thought that was really interesting. And not only that, but they did this in order to separate themselves from other hip-hop acts at the time. Because when Digital Underground actually first formed, they were more of like a hard-nosed political militant hip-hop group. But Public Enemy, Boogie Down Productions, X-Clan, there were so many other groups around this time that were already on that niche. So they decided to do something totally different. They decided to separate themselves apart from what everybody else was doing and just be themselves. And it worked. And it was a success. And not only that, but you could say that Sex Packets was also one of the earliest alternative hip-hop albums, along with what the Native Tongues posse did with groups such as De La Soul, A Tribe Called Quest, and the Jungle Brothers. It was along those lines as well. So I feel that Sex Packets is an album that a lot of times doesn't really get the credit that I think it really deserves outside of the Humpty Dance. Because I think most people just look at Sex Packets as the album that introduced the world to Humpty Hump and the Humpty Dance. But no, it did more than that. It was a pioneering hip-hop album that I feel that laid the template for other acts to come along and sort of follow. You know, they were following the template of what P-Funk did. Not that they bit P-Funk, but they took that inspiration from hip-hop and everything else, and they molded it into their own uniqueness. And then there were other groups who looked at Digital Underground and saw what they were doing, and they took what from them and molded it into their own thing. So I really applaud and respect Digital Underground for taking a risk with Sex Packets, because they were doing something different than most hip-hop groups. And the fact that they were still able to tour with Public Enemy and be a huge success, and how they prided themselves on being different. It's like DJ Fuse said in that documentary, you know, at the time there were so many rules in hip-hop, and they just decided to say, F it, we're just gonna do what we're gonna do. And that's another thing that I feel that Sex Packets really pushes on the album, is that don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Be yourself, do what you do, and you'll be more proud of yourself. You'll get more respect by just doing your own thing and not trying to jump on the bandwagon. So there's a lot of themes that come along with Sex Packets. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a fun record to listen to. It's one of those hip-hop albums that you put on when you want to have a good time. You want to just vibe out and just feel good. But it's just really great how they were able to take that good nature side of hip-hop and at the same time try to teach their audience something without preaching it to them, without beating them over their head with it. It was just really cool. But if you don't take anything from Sex Packets, just take the whole concept of, hey, be who you are, you know, just do your thing. Basically just swing the way you swing, man. Do your thing and have fun while you're doing it. That's the biggest thing that I feel that you can really take for Sex Packets, just being yourself, being proud of who you are, doing your own thing, not following the rules, and just, you know, doing what you do, man, and having fun the whole while you're doing it. But definitely, if you've never heard Sex Packets as a whole album, I urge each and every one of you that's listening right now to go on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, wherever you listen to your music. I urge you just to go and check out this album and just listen to it beyond the Humpty Dance. And I'm hoping that maybe you will understand some of the things that I picked up on, and maybe you will pick up on things that I didn't pick up on, that I missed. But Digital Underground, Sex Packets, definitely one of the greatest hip-hop albums of all time. And if you've never listened to it, I urge you to stop this episode right now, and wherever you gotta go to listen to it, just listen to it, and I guarantee you're gonna love it. It's a great album. Peace out. I just want to take the time to say thanks to everybody for tuning in to this week's episode. Hope you really enjoyed the content. If you did, please be sure to follow me on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Anchor, all at The Boombox Guru. You can also follow me on Instagram at The Boombox Guru. You can like my Facebook page, The Boombox Guru. Be sure to tell your friends, your family, anybody that you know that may be interested in music commentary, music discussion. Be sure to tell them, like the page, follow the pages, share it. Just really help to promote and get me out there, everybody. And as always, I hope you all have a good day and you be blessed. Peace out.